Let's say you've got some painting to do. You've already started and you've just cracked into the walls and now you're thinking, ooh man, I might actually suck at this. How the heck are you supposed to paint your bedroom or your entire house without wrecking it or losing your mind in the process? Good news, I've got you covered. Yo, what's cracking folks? Jeremy Vassar here, and I've been a professional painter for over 20 years and I've seen every mistake in the book, many of them firsthand because I've done them myself. In this video, I'm gonna show you what tools you actually need and what's a waste of money, what paint goes where in order to avoid disaster, and one simple thing that can make your job look way better regardless of your skill level. Let's start with tools, because walking into Home Depot without a good idea of what you need is like going to Costco when you're hungry. You're gonna end up with a lot of snacks you probably shouldn't have bought. I just got so many snacks. Now, if you've been to the paint aisle in stores like Home Depot and Lowe's, there's just so much stuff to choose from. There's a lot of things that are saying it'll help with this thing or that thing, or little gizmos and gadgets like the AccuBrush and paint edgers and all kinds of stuff. Most of those things are a waste of money. Your time and money and effort is spent better elsewhere, and I'm gonna go over that right now. I've got two things that are really important to get high quality versions of, and then I've got a couple other things on the list that are more like budget friendly, but are still important to consider as you move into your paint work. The first thing to get a high quality version of is a brush. It's worth it to go ahead and get something that's decent. Don't cheap out on it. The bristles are gonna fall out. You're gonna have a really hard time cutting clean lines. It's gonna be a nightmare. And again, brushes, even the best brushes aren't overly expensive. This is a fantastic brush. It's a 2.5 inch Corona Cortez. It's my favorite. But I would also recommend sticking with an angled or a sashed brush like this one has this angle at the top. And I know that might raise the ire of some old crustball painters. You'd be like, you should use a square brush and right there, which is fine. Square brushes are great. But they're a little bit harder to control, particularly for beginners. And there's nothing wrong with using a sash brush for wall paint, ceiling paint, anything like that. I've found them to be much easier to control, particularly for newer painters that I've worked with and trained up and all of that good stuff. So do yourself a favor, get a good high quality brush. Next up is the other thing that lays down product, which is gonna be a roller cover. I really like the Wooster Pro Doozy FTPs in 1/2 inch. You can also use the 3/8, that's fine too, but we get great results with the 1/2 inch, and we use the 9 inch variety or the 14 inch variety. They lay down product really nicely, and we use that for everything, ceiling, walls, all that good stuff. And if you don't get a good quality roller cover, again, you can have a really bad time. It can kick off a lot of spatter, get paint all over everything, and leave you with a finish that you're none too pleased with. The remaining 4 items on this list are not that expensive, and you can get whatever version of these that you want, but plastic sheeting is super useful, as well as drop cloths. And if you just get some halfway decent drop cloths, you'll have them probably forever. We still have drop cloths that we've had for over a decade in use. Just really good to spread all that out and make sure you're not getting paint on things that you shouldn't. Another thing that's really good to use is an extension pole on your roller frame. I like the Sherlock ones from Wooster that expand and contract. The 2 to 4 footer is a great place to start. If you need something taller than that, you can always get a bigger one, but you don't want to be like one of those tools that's in a paint commercial where they're standing on a ladder and using a roller frame over their head. That's silly, it's gonna hurt your back. You're better than that. So get an extension pole, and you don't need to spend a lot of money on it, but it's just gonna make your job go way smoother if you have one of those. The other thing that can make things easier is something like this, which is a handy paint pail. These aren't expensive at all. They also have liners that come in and out of them. And what's nice about these, this is what you would use to do your cut-ins or paint trim. Once you put paint in here, you fill it up about halfway, and when you're done using your brush, you can stick it to the magnet and it keeps the bristles in the paint. You can cover this in plastic and that'll stay good for a while. But just super nice to use, makes it easy, and if you need to swap paints out, you can pull the liners out and wash them out and all that good stuff. The other thing is using a larger roller pan. Most folks that are painting in their home are using a 9 inch roller cover on a 9 inch frame, which is very typical. It's the most common roller cover. But a lot of the pans they sell are really small, and it's super easy to slosh the paint out of those pans and get it all over the place. But they sell jumbo trays that fit a full gallon of paint in really easily. You don't have to load them a lot. They hold a decent amount of paint, and you're much less likely to spill it as you move it around. They also sell liners for those pans as well. Again, just making it convenient to switch between paints and clean up and all that good stuff. So that was just a smattering of some of the products and tools that we recommend, but we've got our full list on Amazon, both for our premium and budget picks on our Amazon storefront. And if you want all of our free guides to paints, primers, and colors, as well as some free course materials, you might want to consider checking out our free DIY community called Paint Your Home Now. The link for that is in the description below. All right, so now that you got your gear dialed in, you don't want to screw up this next part because even with the perfect tools, the wrong paint can really ruin a job. Oh, and here's a fun story. I was down in the city many moons ago, Philly, that's where I'm at. But I was painting an apartment for some young gals that were friends of mine, and I was just trying to help them out. They were moving in and all that jazz. And my brother decided to come down and help me. And as soon as he got there, he proceeded to roll semi-gloss paint on the ceiling, which is not correct. Then we had to wait for that to dry, fix it, paint it back, and I think he had to leave early, so then I had to clean up. Anyway, that story ends with him marrying one of the gals from that apartment, and now they have 3 children. My point is, it's really important to put the right paint on the right spot, which is what this section's about. I'm gonna throw a quick cheat sheet up on the screen here, and this will cover you for like 98% of the rooms you're ever gonna paint. For ceilings, you're gonna use a flat paint. For the walls, you're gonna use matte or eggshell, and for the trim, you're gonna use semi-gloss. All those terms are just sheens, but you wanna make sure you put those sheens in those spots. The one caveat to that is bathrooms that have a shower or a tub in them, anything that's gonna generate a lot of moisture. So you wanna make sure you use a moisture-resistant and mildew-resistant paint on the walls and the ceiling in those rooms. What we generally use is either Emerald or Duration from Sherwin-Williams in the matte or satin finish. And just be aware, each brand of paint does their sheens a bit differently. The naming conventions may change, and some tiers of paint don't have all the sheens. It can get really confusing. We have lists of all the paints we recommend from Sherwin-Williams, Benjamin Moore, Lowe's, and Home Depot for each application. If you want that list, again, check out the link in the description. Okay, so you've got your tools, your paint. Now it's actually time to lay down some product. And if you think you suck at painting, just wait until I tell you this story that still bothers me to talk about. Once I tell the story, I'm gonna talk about what could have been done differently, and then I'll give you an actual use case of how you can go about approaching a room using what I'm about to lay out. So when I was in my early 20s, I was running an exterior job on this very nice house. It was well over $2-3 million house. We needed to do a good job is my point. And I needed extra help, so my brother sent me a guy that he had used all too briefly on one of our commercial jobs. And this dude rolls in, I'll use a different name because he might still be around. We'll call him Schmeg. And Schmeg rolls in, he was a retired police chief. I set him up on the back deck. I'm like, just paint these windows and doors. Here's your stuff. And then I scooted back up on the boom lift and boomed up and was doing all the high stuff. Then I get flagged down by one of the guys from the interior crew, which was not part of my company, which is never a good sign. And so I boomed down, I'm like, what's up? He's like, you might want to check your boy on the back deck. And I was like, oh, tremendous. So I walked around, and good old Schmeg had gotten paint everywhere. He got paint on the deck, he got paint on the windows, that's fine, but he got paint on the rubber coping, on all the hardware, everything. Not only that, he had paint from the tips of his fingers to past his watch line and all down his brush. And I was like, yo, stop what you're doing. He's like, oh, I thought we'd just wipe it off later. And I was like, no, you're going home. So that story ends with me grabbing my brother and another guy from our crew and spending an entire weekend cleaning up all of Schmeg's lovely errors. All he had to do was use some tape. Nothing wrong with using tape. If you're not confident in your brush abilities, there's a lot of good applications for tape that can give you a little bit of safety net and make sure your job turns out well. A couple use case scenarios are baseboards. So if you have baseboard that's going up against carpet or hardwood, you can tape the hardwood right up to the baseboard, and that way if your brush strays off the baseboard, it'll hit the tape and you're not gonna ruin your floors. Same to do with carpet. Sometimes you wanna get a little bit of thicker tape with the carpet and a little bit stickier tape. If you're using yellow frog tape, a lot of times the green frog tape does a little bit better with carpets, but you just wedge that up against the baseboard and that'll give you a little bit of a safety net. Also, you can use tape around doorknobs, window plastic, window coping, hardware, anything like that. Also, if you can't get clean lines in a ceiling, I've seen people get pretty solid results just with taping that ceiling line out where the wall meets the ceiling. All right, so now I'll just give you a quick scenario if you are painting a room, how you can go about it, and then kind of scale it to meet your skill level. What we like doing is if you go into a room, say you're doing a full repaint, we paint the ceiling and the trim first, and then we do the walls last. Really common workflow, particularly for crews that come in and spray the trim first. So once the trim and the ceiling are done, it's up to you to decide how much taping you want to do. Minimally, you want to tape the baseboards. We do that all the time. It gives you really clean lines on the baseboard. Also, the tape prevents any spatter from getting on the baseboards when you go to roll the walls. But if you're not confident in your other cutting in abilities, you can also tape off any of the trim that's meeting the wall. So the sides of window frames, door frames, and you can even tape out the ceiling line where the wall meets the ceiling as well. And that way, if you're looking at your wall, you pretty much have everything taped out except for the inside corners, and you can get pretty solid results even if you're not super confident in your brush control or your painting abilities in general. And there's nothing wrong with using tape. God smiles on results, and that's what we're here to get. So now you know the tools you actually need, where to use which paint, and how to use tape to prevent disasters and get a solid looking job. But there's one more thing. Most DIYers mess up wall painting in 3 big ways without even realizing it. You can watch this video right over here to help avoid those mistakes. Until next time, y'all take it easy, work smart, and have a good one. Peace.